So welcome everyone to MSN information session on Fridays. My name is Joan Loftus. I'm the director and chair of the nursing programs at Colby-Sawyer College. Joining us today is Tom White, the assistant director of admissions, and Jane Eaton, who is a graduate of our MSN program, our first cohort, who is a clinical nurse leader on 3 West inpatient surgery at Dartmouth-Hitchcock. So welcome everybody. A couple of ground rules as we go through today's session is if everybody could mute their microphone and then obviously unmute it when you want to speak. This session will be recorded and it will be available via email after the session is done. Also, if you have a question, feel free to jump in, raise your hand and ask a question during the session. You can also ask a question via the chat, either to me privately or to the group. So let's get started. So I just want to go through a few slides to give you some information on our program, and then we'll hear from Jane on her experiences with our program. Okay, so Colby-Sawyer has the School of Nursing and Health Sciences, and we've had tremendous growth over the past year. We have a new dean, Dr. Kevin Finn, which some of you may have met already or seen him in the different MSN Friday sessions. And he's been really, really instrumental in our growth. Starting this fall, we're going to have an Associate of Health Science program. We obviously have our Bachelor of Science program in nursing, exercise science, public health. We'll also be starting a BS in health science this fall. We have degree completion programs, RN to BS, as well as respiratory therapy to BS that we will be starting this fall as well. And obviously, excuse me. Obviously, we have our Master of Science in Nursing program. We've had our CNL track for a few years now, and starting this fall, we'll have the Nursing Management and Executive Leadership track, as well as the Nursing Education track. Our MSN program is now fully online with 8-week courses. We do have 2 courses, I should say, that are the traditional 15 weeks, and those are courses that have a clinical component to it. So it allows the student to still work full-time or part-time, as well as do the classroom work and the clinical hours that are required. We have some outstanding faculty in our MSN program, many of whom are nurses from DH. They're nurse researchers, they're expert nurse clinicians, and they are really, really a bonus to our program. We also have a tremendous amount of student support. Tom White, who's our Assistant Director of Admissions, as I said, is wonderful help getting students into the program and information on the programs. Jen Hall is our new Director of Professional Learning. She helps with onboarding and really any needs that students might have before they actually dive into the courses. And then I also serve as the academic advisor for the master students. Sorry about that. Okay. And Tom White's going to talk a little bit about the application process. So Tom.
Yes, thank you, Joan. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to go over quickly the MSN application process. It's very straightforward. It's basically just a free online application, and it just basically will update us, currently where you're living, and all of your pertinent information. So that way we can onboard you to the program. A part of our application process, aside from the online application, is you'll provide a professional resume, and you can upload that right via our online link. And then the next step will be requesting official transcripts to be sent to us, and you may send those to the admissions account. It'll be admissions with an S at the end at colby-sawyer.edu. In some schools, I know we'll send them via regular mail. We will accept that as well. And we require our students to have a college level stats course. And I can work with all potential students through this process and having a valid and active nursing license. You do not need to provide that license. We will look that up and add that to your application. So it's a very streamlined process. If you have any questions or concerns or need help requesting your official transcripts, I'm more than happy to reach out to your previous institution and assist through that process. We accept applications and matriculate students once a year, and we're accepting applications right now up to August 31st, with September 1st being the start of our cohort, our 2020 cohort. So we are still accepting applications currently, but we're also accepting applications for future 2021 as well. And if students have questions, please feel comfortable reaching out to me. International applicants will be required to submit the TOEFL. In the admissions timeline, one of the beauties of being a smaller college is really that speed that we really rely on. So once your application has been complete, with your online application has been submitted with your resume, and we've received all your official transcripts, you have proof that you fulfilled this college stats requirement. We'll make a decision within 24 to 48 hours, and that decision will come via email, and I'll also follow up with a phone call. You'll also be receiving a formal admit letter that'll be coming in the mail. But our goal is really to give you that speed and really help you through the next steps of the process. Communication is very important to us, and that's where I think is one of our largest strengths. And if students have any questions along that process, we're more than happy to help. And with that communication, the next steps will be submitting your $200 enrollment deposit that will go towards your first course. And basically what that does is kind of reserves your spot. Once that enrollment deposit has been submitted, you'll be receiving your Colby-Sawyer login and email credentials within 24 to 48 hours. And then Joan, Dr. Loftus will help out, reaching out as well to answer any questions that you have about onboarding to the program. The great thing about Colby-Sawyer's master's program is you have a lot of support staff along the way. Joan mentioned that you have Jen Hall, the Director of Professional Learning, who will be the assistants, who can provide assistance, and Joan is there as well to answer any questions or help you along that way.
Great.
I think we're next slide, yeah. The next piece, which Joan mentioned previously, is the MSN Scholarships that we're actually excited to announce this year. These are the fall 2020 scholarships. Basically, the first graduate course will cost new students $375. That does not include the $10 online course fee per credit. So the first course will actually be 405 credits, the 375 plus the $10 per credit course online fee. And each one of our courses are 3 credits each. We do have a one credit class as well, but most courses are 3 credits. The second graduate course will be priced at $930. The $900 showing there it does not show the $10 online course fee, and that will. This incentive is really a great savings for new students. And then preferred partner, enhanced partnership with Dartmouth-Hitchcock and health employees. After those first 2 courses, your cost per credit will be $575 per credit, which will be a nice preferred tuition price for going forward for the rest of the program. So the whole goal, for when we discussed this type of scholarshiping was to maximize, the educational reimbursement and then the out-of-pocket costs for interested MSN students, and that's really what we've done. I encourage each one of the master's, enrolled students or interested students to contact your nursing director of education or the HR department, so you can kind of discuss what the reimbursement process might be. Some HR departments will reimburse right after the course ends. Some of them reimburse at the end of the fiscal year. So it's very important just to connect with your HR department and find out what that process might be. Sometimes they'll require a form, but I'm happy to assist you through that process and find out who the correct contact is for that. But we're excited to develop these type of scholarships. Like I said, this scholarship right here that you're seeing is for 2020. We're already discussing the scholarship for 2021. It is subject to change, but we're currently working on that process, and more specifics will be coming available later this fall.
Great, thank you, Tom. So does anybody have any questions at this point? Okay. As I mentioned, Jane Eaton is with us here today. She's a graduate of our first cohort of the CNL track. And I wonder, Jane, if you could maybe talk about your overall experience at Colby-Sawyer, but maybe start with explaining what a CNL is.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm always happy to talk about my experiences at Colby-Sawyer, and I see my colleague here, Erica, on the video gives me a little boost because we had a great class and we went through together, and it was great. My overall experience was very positive. I have very fond memories of it. Not that it wasn't challenging, it was challenging. And the caliber of the program, I feel, contributed to my growth at DH. And for example, doing an entire semester's work on one project and then having to present it in 15 minutes or do a TED Talk, or we were taught how to translate the work to our workplace, and in those kind of very formal, quick kind of presentations, public speaking. So the overall was a great experience. We were lucky enough to be on campus and also at DH with DH practitioners who co-led some of the courses with Colby-Sawyer faculty, which really made it real and brought it home to our everyday life of working here. So. Great.
Can you explain the role of a CNL?
Oh, sorry.
Sometimes is new to some people thinking about a master's degree.
Sure. The clinical nurse leader role has been around really since about 2007 in this country, and it's really grown in New England lately. There's a New England chapter of the CNLA Association. Some of the responsibilities are going to vary depending on what setting you're in. You may be in an ambulatory setting, you may be in an inpatient setting, you may be in a community setting as a CNL. But as an overall theme to the CNLs, it's about improving things for the patients, improving things, for example, my unit. I'm responsible for unit outcomes in conjunction with the other leaders here on my unit. I do a lot of complex cares, being involved in length of stays, patient satisfaction, patient outcomes. So what really drew me to the CNL position was that I didn't have to leave the bedside, and now I have the best of both. I get to be at the bedside, I get to work with nurses, coaching nurses, but also can take a break off the floor and do a lot of other things. There's a lot of variety in my job, a lot of creativity, and no 2 days are the same, kind of like nursing, but in a more broader focus. So it's really great.
Great, thank you. Would you be able just to mention maybe some of the other positions that the nurses in your cohort took after they graduated?
Oh, sure. Well, the master's, opens up many doors to nursing, whether it's a CNL track or not. Just having an MSN really helps. I know here at DH, we have educators, quality and safety folks. Erica herself went into infection prevention. There's nurse clinician roles, there's nurse manager roles, much broader than just the BSN. So it really opens up a lot of doors.
Yeah, I think it's right. I think it's important to know that even if you set out in one track, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stay in that type of work once you graduate. We've had, classmates of Jane's have become clinical faculty, have become full-time faculty, have done various roles even outside of the CNL role itself.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I wonder if you could speak a little bit about the salary changes that you may see once you have your master's degree or enter into a different role, such as a CNL or even an educator.
Well, I think that's going to depend on facility, right? I only know
Right.
Dartmouth, but it does not only open doors, but it increases your ability to increase your income for sure. I think Dartmouth puts a high value on education, and a master's degree and a DNP or a PhD are all, I believe, well rewarded.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, and again, it does depend on facility that you work at and geographic region that you work in as well. Does anybody have any questions at this point? You can throw them up into the chat. Okay. Perhaps Jane, maybe you could talk about the program outcomes, and were any of them most helpful for you as you started your different path in your career?
I think overall the program gave me the confidence to apply to not just CNL positions, but I felt comfortable applying to many nursing positions that required an MSN. Especially those, I think that one of the great things about Colby-Sawyer, the MSN program, when I went through it, incorporated what we call the 3 Ps, and that's advanced pathophysiology, advanced pharmacology, and advanced physical assessment. Those are a basis of an NP practice and degree. So if I ever wanted to go on to be a nurse practitioner, then you've already got those courses, and those were really important. But the program outcomes, as we said, the MSN in general, are applicable to many areas. The leadership training that we received in the program, and the ability to think outside the hospital was what I remember the most. I was most impressed by our public health course, because it really, I had only been a nurse here at Dartmouth on the units, and it really broadened my thinking into how holistic thinking, does the patient that's before you today live, what's important to them to go home, how do we do safe discharges, how do we as CNLs even communicate with the community and try to improve outcomes outside of the hospital, both what we used to call upstream, downstream. And so that was really important to me, and really eye-opening. And I think the quality of the faculty at Colby and the strength of the partnership with DH really was what makes it unique to go to Colby-Sawyer.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely would agree. Thanks, Jane. So when you went through the program, it was an in-person program or a hybrid program for some of the courses. As you know, we've switched to fully online. Can you speak to your experience with in-person and maybe how the program might work as an fully online program?
I'm sure it'll work well. I think I'm lucky that I got to go to the campus and be in class with my peers who also worked at DH. So we really had a lot of discussion about things that were very relevant to our work day to day. But the online, I was just thinking, looking at the Zoom meeting and how far everybody has come with this technology since COVID, that, you know, I would feel comfortable in a Zoom meeting as well for learning. And and I think the access to the instructors wouldn't change. I feel like they were very accessible to us, in our work life when we were not in class with them, and they were very available, and I think it would be the same. And I wouldn't hesitate to join, even if it were just 100% online.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the online, our thought with the online switch is it just will fit a nurse's schedule better in terms of fitting classes in with 12-hour shifts, day, nights, holidays, and that. And you're absolutely right, Jane, with everybody now becoming experts in Zoom. You can have your group work or your discussion work via Zoom, and it's almost like being in person. But great, thank you for that. Any questions from anybody so far? No. The other question I know that sometimes comes up when somebody decides to start a graduate program is, how did you balance your work, your home life, your school life, all at the same time?
Well, I'm not the traditional student, so I had another career prior to this. And so when I went through the master's program, I didn't have children in the home. So that helps. I had my dog and my husband, and who was very supportive. I think no matter what your circumstances are the people around you support you is the most important thing, because you will get through it. You do need people who will just be a sounding board for you. And that's really important to help you get through. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to put it lightly, but it's definitely doable, and it's very enjoyable. And I felt like so accomplished that I achieved that goal. But whether it's actually taking time off, at DH, if you have earned time and taking a day here and there to do your work is totally acceptable. And I think it's important that you speak with your managers or whoever, if you're trying to work, regarding the flexibility of your schedule, because that's important too. But having it online would also help. In our class, we were in school one day a week, and during the capstone, even more school. So it would help to have the online version.
Yep, that gets a little harder to do all the balancing. Yeah, thank you. Any questions from anybody? No? Okay. Jane, final comments on, do you have any advice for any prospective students considering our program or any of the tracks?
I know there are a lot of programs out there. If it were me, I would think, and having been through the program and having a degree now from a very respectable institution, I feel, think long term. Think longer term than just getting through the program. Think after you have the degree, what do you want it to do for you? Where do you see yourself going? See it as a foundation that no one can ever take away from you. The academics will never leave you, and you can build on those. So I think I would compare the programs for the quality of the faculty, which I think is very important, their accessibility, which we talked about, their connections to employers. I think CSC's connection to DH is a huge thing. Classroom interactions, which, on Zoom even, you're going to have great interactions, and learning from each other at this level of study is very, very important.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Tom, any last comments or thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the exciting thing, and it's nice to see that you hit on all those, really great qualities about the program, Jane, and just having those two new tracks that we were able to develop really gives us a nice balance. And I think, you know, Jane, as an alumnus, you can really feel proud that Colby-Sawyer is really working hard and being progressive and really expanding, you know, our nursing and health sciences, and, you know, continue to be a leader in this area, and really, you know, enhance our partnership with Dartmouth-Hitchcock and other systems, which is great. So there's a lot of exciting things. And I think the biggest thing for interested students is just, you know, reach out to us and we'll provide you with all the information. But I think you'll find out right away that we really care about each individual student, and every student does matter. And you're going to get really that support from, you know, really the start of that admissions process, from your first inquiry all the way to graduation. And we're going to have someone there to support you along the way, you know, helping you through those ups and downs that, you know, I'm sure, you know, you experienced, Jane. You probably had a couple of days where you're like, God, you know, really struggling here, as we all do. And I think it's important to have that, you know, that great faculty and support staff, you know, in place to help you through that process. And then when you graduate, you have that sense of feeling of accomplishment, and you can really reach your career goals. So it is an exciting time. It's, you know, it's 2.5 years of your life, but it will be an enjoyable, you know, part, like you mentioned, and we're excited to welcome new students.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Yeah, and I would agree with 100% of what Tom said. Even though I did mention that we've seen tremendous growth over the past year, we still are a small program. And so we can give that individual attention and follow up with emails and phone calls. And, you know, we're not that far away down in New London, so we can meet with you in person if you would like to, if Zoom doesn't work. But yeah, thank you all for coming out today and joining Zoom. Thank you, Jane, and thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Any last questions before we sign off?
I just have one comment.
Great.
Despite the online, I think having the actual graduation ceremony where you actually walk up that podium and take that degree is really, really, I'll never forget that. So think about that too, you know, that's really important, and it's a great time and a lot to celebrate. So think about that time too.
Yep. The light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, if anybody has questions after this, you can certainly reach out to me via email or phone, or Tom, or any of us. But I appreciate everybody watching today, and thank you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.